We're going to continue looking at discipleship this morning, and we will be in Matthew chapter 25. But first, let me just kind of recap just a little bit, because over the last couple of weeks we've looked at some aspects of discipleship, and maybe because of what we've talked about, or even maybe just life experience, you are saying, this discipleship's kind of hard. Is life hard? Every once in a while, you just get that feeling life is just, it's hard. Well, it is. Growing up is a pit, isn't it? You ever wish you could be a kid again and not have to worry about it? You ever? Okay. Well, sometimes that would be nice. Mom, I'm coming home, but okay, no. No. But sometimes we feel that way, and discipleship can be very hard, and it is hard. And I'm not sure, you might say, well, I'm not sure I like all this. Why am I doing this? And that's what I want to talk to you about today. As a disciple of Jesus, what is your motivation? Why are we doing this? And I'm going to tell you, a disciple, we already know a disciple is a student follower, but as you might know, a good student wants to please their teacher. Okay, if you've been in school, you understand a good student wants to please their teacher. And here I'm going to speak to you a little bit from personal experience, because I am 43 years old, and I have been in school pretty much my whole life. Okay, yes, I am still in school. I think I'm in the 23rd grade or something at this point. I just have never gotten out, and you finish one part and you move on to the next. And so I'm personally getting a little tired of it. Okay, and yes, I'm working on my doctorate, but I'll never forget, at the end of the last class of the doctoral cohort, one of my fellow students threw his arms up. He said, "I'll never go to school again." You ever feel that way? Okay, it can get tiring, it can get long, and it is. But here's what I've learned: no matter what class you're in, the secret to success in school is delivering what the teacher wants. The secret to success in school is delivering what the teacher wants. Now, I shouldn't admit this with that being recorded and all. I've gotten good at that. In fact, I did an oral book report on a book I hadn't read. I got an A. You might take note of that for when you're teaching. I got an A. Now, in fairness, I went back and read the book later. I wanted to be honest about it. I ran out of time. You ever run out of time as a student? Say, I'm just out of time. Well, due date's here. I got to do it. But you know what? I figured out what the teacher wants. I delivered it. The goal is to please the teacher. That's the goal of the student, to please the teacher. And when you get your syllabus, when you get your assignments, when you get your homework, whatever it is, you figure out what the teacher wants, and that is what you have to deliver. If you don't deliver what the teacher wants, you get a bad grade. If you deliver what the teacher wants, you get a good grade. It's that simple. Now, we'd like to think that it's a little more complex, but it is that way. It doesn't matter what you or I like. I've turned in assignments I didn't like, and my teacher liked them just fine. I have. Doesn't matter what I like. What matters is what the teacher likes. Who's going to grade the paper? The teacher. It doesn't matter what other teachers in other classes want. Have you ever seen a student go to, well, so-and-so in this other class, he wants this. You know what? It don't matter what so-and-so in that other class wants. What matters is what your teacher wants. And what your teacher wants is what you have to deliver. Okay? And yes, I have been on the teaching side of it too. So I've been on both sides of that paradigm. And what matters is that you please your teacher, because that is how you will get a good grade. Now, as a disciple of Jesus, our teacher is Jesus. Our teacher is Jesus. We are His disciple. A disciple is a student follower. So we are His students. And so who do we have to please? Jesus, that's right. As a disciple of Jesus wants to please Jesus. At the end of the day, what matters in our life is, did we make our teacher happy? Did He approve the assignment? What grade does Jesus give us? It doesn't matter what grade I give you. It doesn't matter what grade everybody else gives you. What matters is, what grade does Jesus give you? Does He approve of your work? Does He approve? So understand, our job is to do the assignment the way that Jesus wants, the way that pleases Him, period. Now, you may have found in school, though, and I have found this, that we all have, and probably you found it in life, it's easy to lose focus. You ever lose focus in life? Lose focus on the job, lose focus in school? What I have found is every degree I've ever gone for, every semester I've ever started, pretty much, I began with excitement. I began with great expectations. I began with eagerness, and I knew I was going to learn good stuff, and I was looking forward to learning, and I was looking forward to this good class. Somewhere along the way, all that wears off, and due dates start coming. And then it's about, I've got to get this done. This is due. You know, this 10-page paper is due tomorrow morning, and it's already 10 o'clock tonight. I better get writing. Okay, you ever pull? Okay, come on, let's be honest. Who has pulled an all-nighter? Okay, there's a few of us. There are a few of us, yes. I have done it. And that's what happens. And so somewhere in the middle, life catches up with you and you lose focus and you get to where you're just trying to get it done. You just want a passing grade. You just want, it's no longer about what I learn. And that's the sad truth. But you went in planning to learn all these great things, but it gets to the point, I just want to get this done so I can get my passing grade and get on to graduation. Graduation. See, the truth is, that a student, a disciple, lives for graduation day. We are motivated by pleasing our teachers, but we want to please the teacher so that we get to graduation. Right? When Jeremy, you want to graduate the 8th grade, right? You want to promote. That's right. All right. Those of you who have been in high school, Maddie, you want to graduate, right? Now, don't laugh. We believe in you. You will graduate. Yeah, you just want to graduate. I understand. I've been through college, I've been through seminary. You get to that point, you just want to graduate. And right now I'm working on my doctorate and I just want to graduate. That's it. You get to that point. So we all do this, and I think this is true in every form of education, but understand in every form of education, the goal is producing a graduate. The goal of the school is not to produce students. The school has students. The goal of the school is to produce graduates. You want them to get through your curriculum and you want them to get to the day of graduation. Your teachers, Maddie, want you to graduate. They do. Well, no, it's not just to get rid of you. It's they want what's best for you. They want you to graduate. My teachers wanted me to graduate. They wanted me to get my work done so I could graduate. They want to see us succeed. So becoming a disciple, understand, is not about eternally being a student. It's about spending our short lives here on earth as Jesus' disciple so that when we graduate, we will become like Him. We saw that last week. That's what we're here to do, to be disciples. Disciples, the goal of discipleship is to become like Jesus, like our master, like our teacher. And so our goal is graduation, the day we walk into His presence and we are made like Him. This life is the education. This life, yes, you're sentenced to life, guys, okay, I'm telling you. But this life is our education. And so a student, a disciple, lives for graduation day, which is when we are made like Jesus. And Jesus gives us a glimpse. That was the intro, guys. Jesus gives us a glimpse of this concept in the parable He told in Matthew chapter 25. Now we're going to pick up in Matthew chapter 25, verse 14. Again, the kingdom of heaven, Jesus speaking, again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by the story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and he entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and a bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. He then left on his trip. Now, some translations of your Bible, by the way, will use the word talent instead of bags of silver. This is actually what I'm reading from today is the New Living Translation. A lot of times they use the Holman, the ones you were handed out when you got into NIV. That's fine. They're all good. But the talent is not... How many of you carry around a talent in your pocket? Okay, a talent was the highest known denomination of currency in the ancient Roman Empire. Okay, and so when you see the word talent in your Bible, they're not translating, they're just telling you this is the amount of money that he handed out. And that's fine, but how many of us know what a talent is? In fact, scholars are a little sketchy on it. They have disagreements on exactly how much, because, we weren't around back then. And so it's okay, I think, that they just describe it here as money, because money's not really the point of the story. It's what Jesus uses to illustrate the story, but it's not the point. But just for what we have, as best I can figure it out, and I looked at a lot of different resources, each of these bags of silver would have been worth about $20,000. That's about what we're dealing with, a talent. In today's currency, we're probably looking at about, and it probably was silver. Silver was the more common means of money. So really what the master does is he gives this first servant, he gives him about $100,000. 5 bags of silver. I prefer cash because silver gets really heavy when you're dealing with, that quantity. The second servant, he gives him about $40,000. That's his job. Here's my $40,000. I'm going away on a trip. I want you to take care of this while I'm gone. I wish I were his friend, you know what I'm saying? Okay. And then the last one he gives right about $20,000, 1 bag of silver. And what this guy this master, is he is keeping his portfolio diversified. Right? Any of you have a retirement? They tell you keep your portfolio diversified. Well, that's what he's doing. He's keeping it diversified. He's invested in different people and different ways. And then let's continue with verse 16. The servant who received the 5 bags of silver began to invest the money and earn 5 more. The servant with the 2 bags of silver also went to work and earned 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid his master's money. There's 2 very different reactions going on here. The first two, and notice the master gave them more. He already knew they'd do better with it. But the first 2 take what they have and they go out and they work and they invest and they bring back a profit, an investment. The last one, what he does is he just takes and hides what was given to him. He hides it. Verse 19, after a long time, their master returned from his trip, and he called them to give account of how they used his money. Let me ask you right here, did the master expect them to hide his money or to use his money? Use it. He expected them to use it. He gave it to them for a purpose. He wanted them to use it. If you left your money with an investment broker, just think about yourself. You left your money, most of us in our society have a retirement plan. You leave your money with an investment broker, and you come back and check on it in a few years, and they say, hey, we doubled your money while you were gone. Are you going to be happy? I'd be pretty happy with that. That's a good deal. Doubles, that's a nice deal. If you come back to your investment broker a few years later and he says, you know what, we kept your money locked up safe, don't worry about it. And that's what you're planning to retire on, how happy are you going to be? You're going to find a new broker, that's right. Well, that's where this story goes too, because the master's not happy. Okay, let's see how the master reacts, and we'll see his reaction from Jesus' explanation. The servant whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward, this is verse 20, came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I have earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling a small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received the 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver, and I've earned 2 more. And the master said, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling a small amount. So now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Now notice, the master's just as happy about the one who made 5 bags as he is the one that made 2 bags. He's looking at their stewardship. He's looking at, did they work and invest and do what he gave them something to do with? Yeah, they both doubled, but they took what they had. Not what someone else had, what they had. Okay. Verse 24, then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man. That conversation's never going to go well, you know what I'm saying? You walk into your boss's office and say, hey, I know you're a jerk, and it's not going to go well. Okay. Harvesting crops that you didn't plant and gathering crops that you didn't cultivate, I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, take the money from this servant and give it to the one who has 10 bags of silver. He rediversifies, reallocates his portfolio. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even what little they have will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Jesus describes the kingdom of heaven being like servants entrusted with their master's wealth. This is just one description he gives. He gives several descriptions in the Bible, and people often misunderstand the parable. They often assume this is just about money, and that's not accurate. Jesus uses money as an illustration, and there are lots of parts of the Bible that are about money, but this one's not really solely about money. That's not the direct focus of the parable. What it is focused on is how his disciples should react to the resources, the kingdom resources that God has given them. The kingdom resources that God has given them. Well, what resources has God given his disciples? What did Jesus give us? Now, the truth is, you could probably write down the things that he's given you. There are some notes if you like to follow along and fill in the notes in the bulletin. But God may have given you lots of things, but one that most of us have, particularly because we are so blessed, we do live in America, we do have money and wealth. We are among the richest people in the world. There's a lot of places in the world where what we have in a week would be what they got in a year if they were lucky. We do have wealth. We do have money. And that is something that God gives us, and that we are accountable for the resources. But God also gives us talent and skills. I know many of you, every single one of you has some talent, some skills, some ability. You do. God made you who you are for a reason. He gave you your personality. Now that may be talents that you don't think, well, I don't know what this is for, but God knows what it's for, and he has a reason for it. And he can use it for his kingdom, or he wouldn't have made it. Another one that maybe we don't think about is just time in our lives. God gave you time. I heard it once said, and it's kind of stuck in my mind, time is the most valuable resource you have. You can get more stuff. You can make more money, but you can't make more time. You have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Tell you, if somebody could make more time, they'd get rich, right? You have your lifetime, the time that God has given you, the time that he appointed you to be born, and the time he's appointed you to go home. You have your time. That's what you have. What did the master expect from his investment? You can write down whatever popped in your head as yours things, but what did the master expect from his investment? He expected a profit. He wanted a return on his investment. Now, if you invest in something, do you want a return on your investment? We're a capitalistic society, sort of, right? When we invest in something, you buy stocks, you want a return on your investment. You buy bonds, you want a return on your investment. You open up a savings account, you want the bank to pay you interest and get a return on your investment. That's what we do. Well, this guy's no different. He wants a return on his investment. He wants to make a profit. What do the servants who provided a profit get? Praise. They hear, well done. Their master's happy with them, and they get more responsibility. Oh, aren't you happy? Yes, I'll tell you, you do a good job, you wind up with more responsibility. That's true. That's true. What about the guy who didn't do a good job? What about the guy who didn't the servant who didn't provide a profit? What did he get? He got rebuked and kicked out. Is this where Donald Trump would say, "You're fired"? Is that okay? We won't go there, okay. But that's what this guy gets. Now, this is where we're going to get personal, guys, okay? You can flip that other side of the notes. Ask yourself, how am I using the resources Jesus gave me? See, every one of us has something that God's given. He may have given you 5 bags of silver. He may have only given you 2 bags of silver. Maybe some of us, He only gave a half a bag of silver. But, some of us are bags short, you know what I'm saying? But whatever it is, you're responsible for what He gave you. You're not responsible for what He gave anybody else. God does not hold you accountable for what other people have. He holds you accountable for what He gave you. Only what He gave you. He doesn't make you responsible for what you don't have. But I'm going to tell you, maybe you want to think about money and wealth. I believe that I am responsible for every penny that ever passes through my hands. I will stand before God and I will account. I will. I believe it's responsible. It's stewardship. God has given us something, even if it's small, we're still responsible to be stewards. Every one of us will stand before God and we will account for how we used our money, our property, and our possessions. Did we use them to further His kingdom? Or did we use them for our own personal use until the day He returns? Now, we could go off on a lot of Jesus' teachings about, if you have 2 coats, give one away. I wonder what He'd say if you had 2 cars, but okay, we won't go there. You have 2 houses? Wonder what Jesus would say. I hadn't thought about that until just now, but think about it. What would He say? Do we use it for God's glory? Now, see, I can't answer for you. You'll stand before Christ and you'll answer for yourself. I can only answer for me, but I know the day's coming where I will stand before Jesus and He will say, this is what I gave you. How did you use it? I will have to account to Him. How about talent? Skills. Now, some of us, again, have a lot more bags than others. But every one of us has talent, skill, training in something. I'm grateful for Daniel. I think Daniel's probably the most talented musician I've ever known. I do. But someday he'll stand before Jesus and Jesus says, Daniel, how'd you use that talent? And I'm grateful that he's using it for the Lord. He's not going to say, I went to Vegas and became an Elvis impersonator. You know what I'm saying? I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful. Christine's grateful too. We got, now Austin's not here this morning, but Austin, he's a whiz at computer stuff. He's really good. I appreciate his talent. And you know what? He's a young man, and it excites me because he's using his talent and his abilities for Jesus. But every one of you has talent. God didn't make junk. Every one of you has something good that you can do, that you can contribute, that God made you special for. Are you using it for His kingdom? It's a question we'll have to answer someday. Every one of us has relationships. Some better than others. Your relationships, understand your relationships, even your family, are temporary. They are a temporary gift from God. They are on loan. Everyone you know, okay, this is where we get, if you got Prozac, take it now, okay, guys? Everyone you know is going to die. They're temporary. You and I are going to die. We're temporary. That's truth. They're on loan from God. Are you using the relationship, making the most of it while you have it? We should. Are you using your relationships for Jesus? Do you share Jesus with the people you know, your family? Do you invite them to church? Do you say, this is what God's doing in my life? See, I believe we will account to God for our relationships. And whether we kept them for ourselves or whether we invested in God's kingdom through those. Daniel pointed out a good one this morning. We live in a free nation. We are blessed. We should be grateful. We are blessed. You know how many nations go through a civil war every time they change presidents? We don't have that. I'm not saying things weren't tense and ugly and, there's bad things, but we don't have what other countries go through. We have freedom of speech. No, I'm not worried about someone marching through here and arresting me because I'm up here talking. We have freedom of the worship, freedom of religion. We can worship Jesus without fear of someone coming in here and arresting us and hauling us all off to jail. We don't have to hide and be in secret. Do we take advantage of that? Because I believe we will stand before God and account. Jesus is going to say, I gave you freedom. You lived in a country that was free. You had the ability to share my word. You had the ability to worship together. How'd you use it? Well, I say, well, it was, cold. It was 50 degrees out Sunday morning. I couldn't go to church. Not one of you will say that. So you'll hear, well done. I believe you would have come even if it was 40 degrees. Okay, that was a joke, guys. It was lighten up just a little. But how did we use it? How did we use our freedom to share Christ with others? See, I believe we have more resources than any other generation in history. We have the resources to share Christ with the world. Half the world's on Facebook anyway. Just start talking about Jesus, right, guys? Now, this morning I gave you a resource. I asked our ushers to make sure everyone got a Bible when they came in. Understand there are Christians around the world who would give their lives for this. There are Christians who would die for pages from this. Not even the whole book, just some pages from it. They wish they could have this. They do. There are Christians throughout history who have died so that we can have this today. I think of Tyndale right now, who was burnt at the stake for translating the Bible into English. He gave his life. We're responsible for what we have. We are. And this is a New Testament, and I'm going to share kind of just a heartbreaking story with you that happened to me. I pastored a church, a little church in a country for about 10 years, and the day came where I gave out Bibles. It was actually part of an Easter push for reaching our community. We had a small community, and we worked very hard. I'm proud to say while I was there, every door in that town had the gospel presented. There was not a person in that town who had not been invited to church. That was only, in the summer, maybe 300 people. In the winter, we might have hit a couple thousand, but, I'm happy to say our church, we did do that. But one of the Easters that I was there pretty early on, I gave everyone a Bible, and I walked them through how to share their faith with the Bible. And we marked verses in it. Now, I'm not going to do that today. That's not today's sermon. But that's what I did. And I challenged them to share their faith with someone, but I told them, if you don't have the courage to do that, at least give this Bible to someone. Give it to someone. If you don't have the courage to give it to them face to face, leave it at the laundromat. They only had one for the whole town. Leave it at the restaurant with your tip. Give it to the waitress. That's okay. You can leave a Bible with your tip. That's okay. Leave it somewhere someone will find it. Leave it in the shopping cart at the store. But make sure you pass on God's word to someone. That was my challenge to the church. And yeah, there were those who refused to take them. They wouldn't take one. But what really killed me, about a year later, we had a couple that left the church. And when they left, they returned that Bible to me. They said, the print's too small. I can't read it. Here's the back. I didn't give it to them for them to read. I didn't give these to you for you to read. I'm assuming most of you have one. But that's what happened. Broke my heart. How can people be church members? And actually, here's maybe the worst part of it. I know these folks, they've now stood before Christ. I'll change his name to protect the guilty. Billy Bob, he stood before Jesus, and I don't doubt one moment Jesus said to him, "What did you do with that Bible I gave you?" I don't know how he answered. I don't know. But I know he stood before Jesus, and he's going to have to answer. And the only answer he can give, well, I gave it back, because I'm not sharing you with anybody. And that broke my heart. It was a hard thing. But I'll share a little bit, just the history of these. And again, I'm kind of coming to you this morning with a broken heart. Okay, I'm trying to tell you the truth here. And sometimes the truth's a little bit painful. When I arrived here 4 years ago, there were a lot of Bibles, these among them. That's not odd. I mean, have you ever been to a church that didn't have Bibles? I mean, maybe in some other countries, but here in America, I mean, we get Bibles by the case. We hand them out. That's normal procedure in any church I've ever known. If you were a Bible-believing church, you hand out Bibles. That's just, what you do. And I don't know that I've ever seen a Sunday yet where there weren't Bibles in the back, at least a few, and there weren't tracts in the hallway, and there weren't things that you could take to share your faith. It was that way when I got here. That's nothing new. That's the way it's always been. But I got looking at these, and I discovered something that kind of caught my attention. When I looked at the phone number on the back, it has 602 area code. And I thought, why would they put the wrong area code? The number's right, but the area code's wrong. And then it hit me. We used to have a 602 area code. They changed that in 1999. 1990, how many years ago was that? Yeah, I got a sticker on there covering it, so it has the website now for you guys, but well, that caught my attention, and I started asking myself, have these actually been sitting here since 1999? It gets worse. I actually found a whole stack of them. Now, some of them will say Merry Christmas. My guess is that and I think I've tracked this back to when Jerry Martin was your pastor, they actually did a campaign to put Bibles in the neighborhood, to go out to the neighbors and give them your Bible, and they put Merry Christmas, and different members would write their name and address and phone number on it. And they would do that, and I think that happened in December of 1990. But I have a stack of them that I found that have the Gurleys. Now, some of you know Scott. He's the pastor at The Way. Some of you know Daniel. He did our sound equipment. They were children when they attended here. And they moved their letter from here to Royal Palms in 1991. That means these Bibles have been sitting here since then. 1991. I don't know about you. Someday I'm going to stand before Jesus. And he's going to say, why did those Bibles sit there for 26 years? As far as I'm concerned, they're not going to make 27. They're going out. We're going to reach people. We say, why didn't people come to our church? Well, maybe because we haven't gone to them. And as far as I'm concerned, this day, that changes. They are on that table. I hope every one of you will take one. I'll give you the same challenge. Give it to someone. Give it to anybody. Anybody. Leave it with your tip with the waitress. If you don't have the courage to do that, leave it at a bus stop. Leave it at the shopping cart. Put it somewhere. It's the Word of God. We have it. We have the freedom. We have the ability to share. And we will stand before Jesus. And we will account for how we used it. Now, I got good news, though. The servants who made good use of what God gave them, they got more. I have every confidence if we will be faithful to do what God's called us to do, He'll give us more. If we'll go out to the community, they'll come to us. If we'll give God's word to people, God will cause that seed to grow. Don't worry about running out of Bibles. He'll give us more. I don't doubt it. He's faithful. But what will we do with what we have? I know that's kind of heavy, but let me give you one more thought on our resources, and that's the time, the life we have. Because see, here really is the bottom line. We have one life. We have one life. Mine's half over, guys. I mean, I'm already looking at it. I'm middle-aged. Some of you are a little further down the road. I ain't gonna, get into dates, but 50 years from now, I mean, who plans to be here? Okay. We have one life. It's all we have. It's our opportunity to learn Jesus. It's our opportunity to be His disciple. It's our opportunity to become like Him. And at the end of that, we graduate and we stand before our teacher. What will we hear? You only have one life. The clock's ticking for all of us. What account will you give? When you stand before Jesus, what will He say to you? Will He say, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Well done. Thank you. Thank you for what you did. Thank you for the investing what I gave you. Thank you for using it for my kingdom. Welcome home." Or will He say, "You wicked, lazy servant, get out"? That's what Jesus describes, those two options. Now, I can't tell you for you what He will say. Only you can answer that. That's between you and the Lord. But I tell you, I want to make sure I hear the right answer. I want to make sure I hear "well done." Are you looking forward to that day, graduation? Now, I'm going to tell you, I've met many a student. I've been a student. There were moments where I dreaded the end of the semester, even the year of the graduation, because I had so much to get done. Are you dreading graduation? Or are you looking forward to it? Are you looking forward to the day you see Jesus face to face and hear His grade, His evaluation of your life? Well, what can we do about it? And I'm going to give you two things that we can do now. First one is this: make sure you've enrolled as Jesus' disciple. Make sure you're enrolled as Jesus' disciple. I'm going to tell you, I do believe what we see here in this parable fits with our theology of salvation. It is not that these people were saved by their works. They did the works because they were saved. The person who is a follower of Jesus, who is a disciple of Jesus, will bear fruit. They will do the works of Jesus. They will be conformed to His image. It is the process that we have. The person who is not a follower of Jesus, no matter what works they do, no matter if they go to church every Sunday, no matter even if they give all their money to the church, it won't do them any good because they won't be investing in His kingdom. They'll be working for their own salvation. Make sure you're a disciple of Jesus. See, I'm going to tell you, I have a lot of faults. I have a lot of failures. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. But the one thing I want to make sure of is that I follow Jesus. I hope you'll join me. Now, the second thing that I want to encourage us to do, and I think that we need to make sure of, is keep refocusing on graduation. I'm going to tell you, when school gets hard, when it gets long, and sometimes it does, you got to keep focusing on, if I just get this done, no matter how hard it is, I can graduate. Maddie, you taking notes right now? Okay, good. You can graduate, but you got to get it done. So when life is hard, when it's difficult, focus on graduation. Ask yourself the question, what do I want Jesus to say to me? It's not always easy being a disciple. It's not always easy following Jesus. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm saying it's worth it. It's worth it when we get to Him and we hear, "Well done." And I believe every one of you can hear that. I want to hear it myself, and I want to stand there and see every one of you hear those words and see Jesus smile. I want to know Jesus said, "Well done, Paula. Well done, Karen. Well done, Steve." I want Jesus to say it to you. Not just to me, to all of us. And we can. Let's pray.